Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today I've got a fascinating topic, something we've not discussed on my show before. It's all about plant-based alternatives and medicines to create more intimacy and connection. And I've got a really great expert around this topic. Her name is Karin Calde. She's a relationship and self-development coach. So welcome, Karin.
Thank you so much, Lyn. It's nice to be here.
So what actually got you interested in this, Karin? Because I think it's a really fascinating topic to have a conversation around, because we don't normally talk about, medicinal ways to create intimacy and connection. So what's got you intrigued and on this path?
I would call myself a self-development junkie. I've always been very drawn to healing and growth in all different kinds of ways. And I'd never tried psychedelics of any kind. When I was younger, I was never a big drug taker, anything like that. And it was really only in my 40s that I had read Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind. And that piqued my interest about plant medicines in general. And so I, as someone who has her PhD in clinical psychology and has always been in the field of helping people, I was, really curious not only for myself, but how it could help other people in my life. And then, eventually when it became legalized in Oregon, I thought this is something I would really love to offer my clients, because not only have I now experienced them and use them in different ways for my own healing and growth, but I've been able to see it with so many others as well, dive into the research, into the cultural history of these medicines, and they've been around for thousands of years. And it's just really exciting work. It's this progress that we haven't seen in really any other way in decades around mental health.
Fascinating. So what do you mean when we talk about plant-based medicines? What sort of things are we talking about? For the audience members that don't know specifically what you're referring to, can you give us a bit of an overview?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work specifically with psilocybin, which is found in over 200 different species, or nearly 200 species of mushrooms. And so other people might know these as magic mushrooms. And that kind of psychedelic-assisted therapy was recently legalized in Oregon, which is where I live. In the United States, but of course they're legal in other parts of the world too, such as Amsterdam on your side of the pond, and other states in the United States are also looking at legalization as well.
So are they accessible to the general public? Are they accessible by prescription only? I mean, because obviously there are, like you mentioned, states where it's not legal and countries over here where it's not legal. So it would be more, how would people access?
Yeah, great question. So in Oregon, this is the only place in the United States where you can do it now. It's coming in Colorado, but right now you have to be 21, and that's really the baseline. Anyone who wants to pursue any kind of healing, growth, or if they're just curious, they can do this. They don't even have to get a prescription. When you find someone that you want to work with, they'll ask you a bunch of questions to make sure that you're a good candidate for it. So that's one of the really nice things about doing it legally, is that we have a whole protocol that we do follow to make sure that this is something that might be helpful for you.
And are these mushrooms, if it was legal in the UK, for example, or I actually live in Spain now, but if it was legal in Spain, how would I go about accessing being able to get hold of something like this to be able to try it?
Yeah, and I think Spain might have some more relaxed rules around it, but I'm not 100% sure. Again, I know that in the Netherlands you can do it completely legally. And I don't know the process there, but I think that it's pretty open and it's probably pretty easy to find out information if you want to search for it there. In Oregon, basically, you can go to the Oregon Health Authority's website. They have a directory of professionals. Of course, you can use Dr. Google to to look up. You can look up Oregon psilocybin facilitators or service centers. There are more and more directories now that are available to people. There's a recent one that I did a video for called Trelia, where you can find providers and learn a little bit more about them to make sure they're a good fit for you. And then once you connect with a provider, with a facilitator, they will walk you through the process and they'll tell you exactly what you need to do. But essentially, you would meet with them for a preparation session. So that's usually an hour and a half or 2 hours long. You might have another follow-up session. I tend to do it in 3 steps because I really like to give people a lot of time to feel like that they're really as comfortable as possible with their upcoming journey. So I offer a free consultation. I do a 2-hour prep session. And then I also follow it up with another session for any other questions and also to talk about my recommendations, like how much I think you should take to have the kind of experience that you're seeking. And then we meet at a service center. So this is a licensed facility in Oregon where you can have your experience. And these places have to jump through lots of hoops to make sure that they're providing a really safe and comfortable environment for clients. And I meet with them there, and that's where they take their mushrooms, and I sit with them all day. So this can be anywhere from 4 to 6+ hours until they feel fairly normal to go home. And then I meet again with them a few days later to talk about integration. How do you want to build this into your life? What kind of changes might you want to make so that you bring these insights to life for yourself?
And what experience do people have? I mean, I've never tried anything like that, but and I'm not actually, I suppose, in a position at the moment where I'm curious enough to want to. But for those people that are interested, and obviously you're somebody that's tried it, what experience do you go through when you try these mushrooms?
Great question. And I really do believe that only people who are really feeling called to this should do it. It's a really big experience and it can be challenging. It's not something that you just decide, oh yeah, I'll just do that and it'll be fun. And it might be, but it can be really hard too, and it can be scary. But everyone's experience is a little bit different. There are some people who, like me, who might spend the first hour feeling really anxious as it moves through the different, states of your consciousness and moves through your brain and your body. You'll often see different patterns and geometric shapes. So there was a lot of the visuals in the first part of it, especially. That's usually the first thing that you experience. What we call the come up is when it's becoming more strong and becoming more intense. It can get a little bit scary because some people can feel like they're going away, like they're dying, and they're ceasing to exist in some way, because of how it's working on the brain. It's really shutting down your sense of self. Not for everybody. For some people to have those big experiences, they can have that experience, and that can be initially hard, but then it can be incredibly blissful. You can feel like this boundless and this endless connection with everything, and everyone. A lot of people have a very spiritual experience and feel very held and very loved. I have, people go into it who have had the kind of support that we offer with an intention. And so you set an intention for the experience. What do you want to actually experience? Do I want to experience a sense of peace in my life? Do I want to feel more connected with my partner? Do I want to understand why I get so upset at just the smallest tinge of rejection? Why is it that I get so anxious in my relationships? And what can I do about that? I mean, there are endless things that you can ask to experience. And when you create an intention ahead of time, it's like you are, it's all about mindset, the mindset you're going into the experience with, and that can have a profound impact on your experience. And those that I've worked with, they have, I would say 98% of them have had experiences that match up with the intentions that they have set for themselves. And so they learn things about, oh, I really need to give this attention in my life. Or, oh, I realize now that if I want love, I need to be love. And now I understand what that means. Or it could be that, oh my God, I can take up space here. I'm okay being me. And there's so many different ways that people can have these experiences. Again, they really vary depending on you, your history, your intention, how much you take, all the different things. But I've seen some pretty profound experiences.
So how long does the experience actually last? And then afterwards, so this is two questions. How long do you have to wait for you to be safe to sort of drive, or are you not supposed to drive?
Great question. Yeah, no, you're not supposed to drive the day of. So part of the work we do is helping you come up with a transportation plan. There are plenty of people who come from out of state or even out of the country to do this, and they'll often take local transportation, and that seems to work pretty well for people if they don't have someone that can actually give them a ride.
And how long does the actual experience last for most people, from sort of beginning to end, and then they actually feel back to normal again?
Yeah, so we have different rules around how long people have to stay depending on the dose that they take, but most people start to come down around 4 hours or so plus, and it's a very gradual, gentle come down, and you'll still feel the effects that evening, but you'll feel mostly back to normal by that time, by the time you go home. Most people have a really good sleep that night. They might have a headache because they haven't really eaten or might not have had a lot of water during their experience. The next day they might feel tired and just really want to sit and think and journal about their experience. But what we find that even though the medicine leaves your system really very quickly, there are neurological effects that are more long lasting. So we call it neuroplasticity, where your brain is more open to making changes in the 2 to 4 weeks following your experience. And so this is why integration work and work such as coaching or therapy is really, really important. Because during your experience, you will have these insights, most likely, about what kind of changes you might want to make in your life, or you might have these other ideas of being, and you might want to change your beliefs in some way. But getting support in how to do that and how to live your life in this different way is where the real work is.
Yeah,
and that can be ongoing.
Yeah, so you would say, the best, most sensible, and I suppose to get the quality experience that you're looking for would be to actually work with somebody like yourself and be guided through the whole process from start to finish.
Yes, and there are plenty of underground practitioners who are wonderful, and they've been doing this work for so many years. And not everyone is going to be comfortable with that. And it can be difficult to find a person who you trust and you feel really safe with. I know a lot of the people who take the legal route, they do it for many reasons, but mostly for the most obvious reason is that they just don't feel safe or don't know how to go about finding a practitioner or a guide that they really trust.
For you, how would you proceed to advise people from using the experience going forward? Is it something you'd say, integrate into your life once a week? What's the frequency of this as an option to create more intimacy and connection with your significant other?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'll just give just a little bit of background. There haven't been any studies that have looked. Aren't a lot of big studies that have looked directly on relationships, but there are studies that have had kind of these other side outcomes that show that psilocybin and other psychedelics can be really helpful for connection and communication and emotional stability and sexual satisfaction and functioning even. And so if we were to just take the sexual functioning aspect of it and say, oh, okay, or that satisfaction, or that even that more interest in sex, say, okay, so how did this match up to your intentions that you set? What did you learn from your experience? And so a lot of it is first giving your experience a narrative. So talking about it, and this is what I learned, this is what happened. It's like, okay, well then, what really stood out for you? Really, you can do some journaling about that. How do you want to integrate this into your life? How can you start living this today? You can journal about what kind of things you might need to let go of in order to move forward with this new way of being with your partner. What new kinds of behaviors or beliefs might you want to embrace? So there are different ways and different questions that you can meditate on or journal about or talk about with a coach or therapist. The really interesting thing about these experiences is that a lot of times people keep getting these insights even weeks or months after their journey. And there are different ways of helping that along. And I like to think of these as a lot of right brain activities, getting us out of that very outsized thinking rational part of our brain and get us into things such as spending time in nature, doing creative things such as drawing or painting or movement or singing. Incorporating play into your life is a really good one too. All of those things can help us to really tap into our again, that other part of our brain that can access deeper learnings that might not be as accessible to the thinking parts in our brain. And so that's another thing that I really recommend to people afterwards that they do to continue to reaping the benefits of their experience.
So for you, Karin, can you give an example either from your own experience or from any clients that you've worked with as to what the issue might have been prior to actually trying this as an experience, and then what the subsequent benefits were post-experience?
Really great. I'll just give a recent example is that I was feeling a little bit stuck, and I was actually looking at how to move forward in a certain aspect in my business. Okay. So this is interesting. And my brain didn't go to my business at all, but it did go to a relationship in my life that has been really painful with someone who had been very close to me. And through the experience, what it can do is help you see things really clearly without all the fear and perhaps anger or other parts of you that might get in the way of you seeing it from a different perspective. And I saw this relationship very clearly, and I could see how this other person who had hurt me was hurting. And in my experience, I just felt this tremendous love for him. And I could see that what I needed to do is to really embrace forgiveness and send him love unconditionally, which is not what I had received from him. And that would be the journey. That was what was ahead of me. And so afterwards, that was what I brought forward, and that was what I worked on. And I learned so much about forgiveness in that relationship, but all my relationships based upon that. And, I laughed when I started to tell this, because I said I went into it because I was thinking about my business. But what I realized a couple months later was, oh my gosh, this really was about my business. Because if I am holding on to this pain and anger and resentment toward others, that's going to affect my energy and how I come across to others in all aspects of my life, including my business. And so that was how the mushrooms were really tapping into my inner healing intelligence and how it helped me.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So how often do you sort of have a regular day of the week where you go through this experience? How often do you actually practice this yourself?
So are you talking about how often I take the mushrooms?
Yes. Yeah.
Not very often. And only when I'm really feeling pulled, like I feel like it's really time. So it might be once a year,
Right. Okay.
or every 5 or 6 months. These experiences are, for most people, they don't come out of it saying, oh, I want to do this again. A lot of people are one and done, and that's all they really need. And when you pair these experiences with ongoing support, that might be all you need.
Okay. I just wondered because I didn't know whether it was something like, it sounds like it's a non-addictive thing then, really.
Right. Yeah. And they have shown this in studies with mice who have had these experiences, and they don't keep pressing the lever. They do it once. It's like, okay, that's enough. It's a big experience. Yeah. And there are people that do tend to jump from experience to experience. And the problem with that is that it never allows them to really live out and take what they've learned and put it into practice. They're not really using it in the way that is probably most helpful. And, we can call that spiritual bypassing or whatever, but that's not how you really make good changes to your life.
Yeah, and I suppose it's like with anything, whether it's alcohol, cigarettes, whether it's drugs, whether it's plant-based medicines or whatever, they can all be abused, can't they?
Sure, absolutely. And the good thing about psilocybin is actually there are some really wonderful studies about how it helps people break the addiction cycle. And so, especially around alcohol and smoking, and there are lots of new studies currently being done on opioid addiction and methamphetamines and other different addictive substances. So this actually helps to break that. And yet at the same time, I also understand those who are recovering from addiction oftentimes don't feel comfortable with using something like psilocybin. And I totally respect that. Psilocybin is not the only way to heal. Plant medicine is not for everybody. And I'm the first one to tell you that. But it is a really powerful way for people to feel more connected to themselves and to other people, to the earth and to spirit and beyond. And I know a lot of people say that it's like having years of therapy in one day. And for a lot of people, that is the truth, but not necessarily everybody.
So what are the most common people that sort of seek this? Is it for, creating more intimacy and connection in their intimate relationships? What's the most common reason?
I would say probably the most common reason is people who have treatment-resistant depression. Also anxiety as well. People who have been battling with anxiety and depression for most of their lives, and they're really suffering. They've tried all kinds of different kinds of treatments, and they think, okay, I've read about this might be helpful. And the outcomes are really heartwarming and exciting. Just one person that I have seen who had multiple suicide attempts in their life, who had taken antidepressants for years and years, took this, and weeks later was saying she's never felt better in her entire life. So it can be really powerful, and that's just one example. There are many examples, but that's just one of the earlier sessions that I facilitated. And it's very promising. And but beyond that, I've seen people for addiction. I've seen people who have anxious attachment. I've seen people who want to help getting through their divorce. There's just so many different ways that people and reasons people use it.
Well, in certainly, that your experience with that client who had, was facing the lowest of the low when we have those suicidal thoughts, that must be very powerful and rewarding, to get that sort of feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel so incredibly lucky to be able to sit with people during these experiences. It's not always such a wonderful, beautiful outcome, but for most people, especially if you've really prepared yourself for it, they have really good experiences.
It's been really interesting, Karin. I've never had a conversation around this topic before, so I've learned a lot. Any final words around how people, can use this plant-based medicine, not only to create more intimacy and connection, but in any ways that we've not already discussed?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are so many different ways that people can use it. And one of the outcomes that I had during my very first experience was I felt more connected to something beyond myself, which I had not experienced since I had been a little kid. And so that can be something that's also very, very healing for people, is that spiritual experience.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. As I say, it's been really fascinating and I've learned a lot. What can people do to connect with you in terms of what is your best contact information, Karin?
Sure. People can always send me an email at Karin, that's Karin, at drcalde.com. So that's drcalde.com.
Thank you so much. And hopefully we can connect again and have other more fascinating conversations in future episodes.
I'd love that, Lyn. Thanks so much for having me on.
So it just leaves me to say that true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.